Now, barely 2 weeks or 3 weeks after the premium motor price, that's the price of petrol, was increased, Nigerians are outraged when the Nigerian National Petroleum Limited also came up on Tuesday and adjusted the pump price of the petroleum products to about 1,060 naira. That's in Abuja, and 1,030 naira in Lagos. Our correspondents observed across multiple NNPC stations in the Federal Capital Territory in Lagos, it was confirmed that NNPC stations increased the unit price of the commodity to 1,025 naira, which received widespread criticism from the organized private sector, civil society organizations, and Nigerians in general. Experts and key followers of the Nigerian oil and gas sector fear inflation in the country may further skyrocket following the latest hike, after it rose to 28 years high, that's in June, which could compound the already serious, or how do I put it, situation in the country. This came also as Dangote Petroleum Refining Company faulted the continued importation of petroleum products by oil marketers and the NNPCL, despite the fact that the commodity was produced in the country by the $20 billion Lekki-based plant. The president of Dangote Group raised these concerns on Tuesday after it was summoned by President Bola Tinubu alongside the Minister of Finance, Mr. Wale Edun, and the likes of Group Chief Executive Officer of the NNPCL, Mr. Mele Kyari. Well, let's talk to a development economist, Dr. Emeka Okengo. He joins me live from our Abuja studios. Dr. Okengo, good afternoon, and thank you for being on the program.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Tolu. Good afternoon, Nigerians, and thanks for inviting me.
I would always want to start from the aspect of this increase that we've seen again in the price of petrol. Now, my questions will come in two folds. Yes, and I really like you to tackle it for me. Are we in a totally deregulated market? Because it seems like all hands are now off payment of subsidy or any form of differentials. That is what it seems we are seeing. That's on one side. On the other side, what do you make of the impact on Nigerians that are already complaining, talking about hard times at this very critical junction we find ourselves?
Well, first, let's start with what you call market forces. The forces of demand and supply, the forces of pricing. And we are not producing, none of our refineries are producing any of these products in view. Not AGO, not PMS, and not aviation fuel. So the question of full and total regulation or deregulation cannot be the basis of your conclusions. The basis will be the international market price and the price of your trading currency, which is the dollar. So whatever increases you're seeing might be occurring because of this. Either your production or your purchase point has increased their prices, or the dollar or the currency you're using to buy is exchanging at a higher rate than your naira. That's what it is. Now, having said that, it's also important that we don't celebrate or agonize NNPC adding 30 naira, to the price of PMS, because NNPC is not the sole seller of these products. So many other marketers, major, independent, subsidiary, are selling between 1,200 and 1,200 naira and up to 1,230. That's also important to put that into context. So the NNPC change in price, I don't think would affect whatever situation we found ourselves already in. And let me also tell you that even before we got to the 1,000 naira mark of NNPC, a lot of states outside Lagos and Abuja we are buying these materials or buying these products at much more, as much as 1,300, 1,400 in some instances. So I don't think that fixating on NNPC, like you announced them properly, a limited liability company that is selling their own product, are probably a little less than every other marketer, should become a very major issue, as it were.
Well, but why I'm asking is the fact that many expect that the Dangote refinery should be an answer to some of these problems that we faced in the time in recent times. But another argument from one end is that he's a businessman and he must obviously make profit. And that is why he has come up to also say, well, this is how we can get this fuel sold. How do you think Nigerians can cope with this present situation? Maybe I should ask the question that way, because it's really a challenge. Some people cannot even drive their cars anymore. Let's look at the minimum wage of 80,000 and a liter of fuel for 1,200 in some cases, like you said.
Well, let's first and foremost also go back to part of your announcements you made during your intro. When you were announcing the Dangote refinery, you didn't announce it as a 200 billion naira or 20 billion naira facility. You said it was a $20 billion facility. What that means is that a lot of the infrastructure there, a lot of the machinery equipment there were dollar denominated. And if you understand business, and you do perfectly, you know that a lot of those things you see there were what actually discounted against loans. They were taken. They are not money that came from his savings, so they need to be paid back one way or the other. Now, Dangote had also said part of why I am selling this high, or I need to sell this high, is because I also bought from or using foreign exchange. That was the last position Dangote had when people started pushing back on why, against every expectation, his own prices were getting higher. Now, give or take, you also now landed at saying that he's a businessman and business is all about maximizing profits. I think we should be a little bit worried. We shouldn't focus as much on Dangote as should be focusing on the 4 refineries that are supposed to be owned by government. Let's not foreclose on them, because they are also part of the solutions to this situation that we find ourselves. If those refineries were working, at least they can be able to bring some element of competition. Okay, which is what happened when Glo got into the fray in the mobile ecosystem. So, our getting our refineries back into functionality, be it as a quasi-government owned, be it as being owned by the NNPCL Limited, that is partly owned by government and then partly owned by the private sector, be it whatever. What you want is competition. And then that competition should be allowed. If what we are reading is anything to go by, I think that fortunately the company also came to refute it, that they were now taking NNPC and other companies to court and stopping them from importing petrol. That I think would be, but well, let's not even go into it, because the company has come out to say that it had happened before and that they didn't have any intentions of pursuing that matter. Now, what stops us? There are countries that you can be able to get these products for cheaper. If we are deregulating, why can't people bring the products if they meet the standards and requirements, of the regulators? Why wouldn't you, Tolu, or me, Emeka, also bring in small quantities of these products and then begin to now create some little disruptions in the market? This is how competition grows. And then if we are able to also now have alternatives first and foremost to PMS, before we even start talking about all the other energy choices like the CNG that's been massively promoted now et al. So if you run a monopoly, you get what comes out of a monopoly. That's what it is. I mean, monopolies don't run as a Father Christmas. Okay, they run as machineries of total and complete conquest. So, and there's no monopoly that is not there to be able to monopolize. That's what monopoly is all about. And then they start fixing or determining what they think, you either take it or leave it. Again, when you're talking about people not able to buy fuel, people not able to, against what you call your minimum wage, it also brings to the fore the failures of your public transport systems. If we had good transportation systems that were functional, you wouldn't matter if you were paid 60,000 and you were buying fuel for 30,000, because that 30,000 might last you for 2-3 months, because you'll be needing to be using that car to do your basics. You have the buses, you have the trams, you have the trains, and then you have your travel card. So against also saying people can't fuel their cars, why are we not also saying, why don't we now have an intermodal transportation system, public that can make everybody? It's not all of us that are in the public sector. All of us are not earning 80,000. Some of us are earning much more less than that. So we should also be able to afford to move around, which is the point I think you're trying to make with the high cost of fuel. But if we had Tolu, a good network, public transport system that functioned, I'm sure that for maybe a fraction of what you spend, in a week to get fuel, you can travel all around the city or even do intercity travel with just a travel card. So this is also a failure of our public, transport infrastructure.
A lot of work is being done around the CNG space. We see that clearly. Government trying to see how, we can address this price of petrol and all of the fallout. But the IMF is being very firm, and World Bank on Nigeria, that we must stay the course. And that's my question to you now. How do you see us wading through this? We're talking about some years now to start to see the positives of some of these policy reforms by government.
Let's start with CNG. I mean, if you're saying that the CNG program is running well, I haven't seen any CNG program on Abuja Highway. I've not seen any CNG program or station on Kaduna Highway. I've not seen any CNG program on Enugu Highway. So if you're going to be getting people to use CNG, you must be able to first and foremost, establish those refueling points that are very critical. And then, out of the 6 points we have in Abuja, I don't see also, them functioning. There's one very close to my office. I've never seen any car go there to refuel, and I tried to take notice time ago. I'm a proponent for CNG, okay, but I also don't want us to talk the talk. I also want us to walk that talk. And walking that talk means that it's not about showcasing the buses that you're donating to people. You must be able to also look at the back end. And that back end will be not only, these city places you can be able to refuel. What if you run out of gas? Where are you going to be getting it? What if you need to do a 300 kilometer, trip? How do you need to make certain that you can run on CNG fully and come back on CNG fully? So it's not enough for us to be able to unveil those buses. I think it's also equally important and critical, necessary too, that we also now show the steps that make certain that when you take off, you're able to come home with CNG still running your car.
Dr. Kengo, before I let you go, there's going to be an MPC meeting in November, and many are worried about what might happen at that meeting. Maybe the central bank will continue to tighten. Of course, we've seen what's happening in recent times, trying to rein in on inflation. So what do you think would be the topic of discourse, or what would take charge of that discussion when they meet on that round table? What do you think will be on the front burner? Inflation, the FX market, reserves are looking pretty good.
Well, the CBN you can fairly predict. Okay, their actions, their outputs are fairly predictable. I'm not a fan of the MPC because it basically focuses on what all of us know. They're trying to stabilize the currency. They're trying to stabilize the exchange rate. They're trying to make certain that they balance fiscal and monetary policies, whatever it is. They're trying to make certain that they give some impetus to the naira. Now, this is where that work stops. But the real action is what the things we can do to be able to promote, productivity. At one time, the CBN had tried to directly intervene by giving intervention programs here and there, but that also didn't go well, not because it wasn't well intended, but because to a large extent, it was mismanaged, like all the anchor borrowers programs. So the CBN now says, okay, we're going to just stay and be professional in making certain that we do our job, of making certain that we're stabilizing exchange rates and, trying to help hemorrhage in our currency value systems. Now, what you should be thinking about or talking about is what do you now do to make certain that you can give CBN the leverage, increasing the basis point, whatever it is that they want to do. It is going to be bordered on productivity, and productivity, Tolu, is not driven by policy alone. Productivity is equally driven by clear actions and programs, and this is where the other aspects of the private or the other aspect of relationships in running a system comes in the private sector and probably the rail sector. And then it comes into maybe these people who are supposed to be supporting or promoting these policies of government. And this is where the ministers come in, or the ministries come in. I think in fixating on the CBN, we might be punching a sandbag, okay? Because if you're not able to also now place what the MDAs are doing vis-a-vis the fiscal policies that must promote the monetary policies, which is where the CBN plays, you might not get a full picture. That's the point I'm trying to make.
Dr. Emeka Okengwu, I must thank you so much for your time. It's always great having you join the program. Development economist, enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you very much, Tolu.